Story of the Fisherman and His Wife. There once was a fisherman and his wife who lived together in a little hut close to the sea, and the fisherman used to go every day to this fish. Now, once the line was pulled deep under the water, and when he hauled it up, he hauled a large flounder with it. The flounder said to him, "Listen, fisherman, I implore you to let me go. I am not a real flounder, I am an enchanted prince. What good will it do you if you kill me? I shall not taste nice. Put me back into the water and let me swim away." "Well," replied the man, "you need not make much noise about it. I am sure I had much better let a flounder that can talk swim away." He put him back again into the shining water, and the flounder sank to the bottom. Then the fisherman got up and went to his wife in the hut. "Husband," said his wife, "have you caught nothing today?" "No," answered the man, "I caught a flounder who said he was an enchanted prince, so I let him swim away again." "Did you wish nothing from him?" said his wife. "No," said the man. "What should I have wished from him?" "Ah," said the woman, "it's dreadful to live one's life in this hut that is so small and dirty. You ought to have wished for a cottage. Go now and call him. Tell him we choose to have a cottage, and he will certainly give it to you." "Alas," said the man, "why should I go down there again?" "Why," said his wife, "you caught him, then you let him go, so he is sure to give you what you ask. Go down quickly." The man did not like going at all, but he went down to the sea, and when he came there was the sea, quite green and yellow, and was no longer shining. So he stood on the shore and said, "Once a prince, but changed you be into a flounder in the sea. Come, for my wife Ilsebel wishes what I dare not tell." Then the flounder came swimming up and said, "Well, what does she want?" "Alas," said the man, "my wife tells me I ought to have kept you and wished something from you. She does not want to live any longer in the hut. She would like a cottage." "Go home then," said the flounder. "She has it." So the man went home, and there was his wife, no longer in the hut, but in its place was a beautiful cottage, and his wife was sitting in front of the door on a bench. Inside the cottage was a tiny hall and a beautiful sitting room and a bedroom, a kitchen and a dining room, all furnished with the best of everything. And outside there was a little yard in which were chickens and ducks, and also a little garden with vegetables and fruit trees. "See," said his wife, "isn't this nice?" "Yes," answered her husband. "Here we shall remain and live very happily." "We will think about that," said his wife. All went well for a week or a fortnight, and then his wife said, "Listen, husband, the cottage is much too small, and so is the yard and the garden. The flounder may just as well have sent us a larger house. Go down to the flounder and tell him to send us a castle." "Ah, wife," said the fisherman, "the cottage is good enough. Why do we choose to live in a castle?" "Why," said the wife, "you go down. The flounder can do well that." The fisherman's heart was heavy, and he did not like going. He said to himself, "It is not right." Still he went down. When he came to the sea, the water was all violet and dark blue, and dull and thick, no longer green and yellow, but it was still smooth. So he stood there and said, "Once a prince, but changed you be into a flounder in the sea. Come, for my wife Ilsebel wishes what I dare not tell." "What does she want now?" asked the flounder. "Ah," said the fisherman, half ashamed, "she wants to live in a great stone castle." "Go home, she's standing before the door," said the flounder. The fisherman went home, and there stood a great stone palace, and his wife was standing on the steps waiting for him. And outside the house was a large courtyard with horse and cow stables, a splendid garden with the most beautiful flowers and fruit, and everything one could ever wish for. "Now, husband," said the wife, "isn't this beautiful?" "Yes, indeed," replied the fisherman. "Now we will stay here and live in this beautiful castle and be very happy." "We will consider the matter," said his wife, and they went to bed. The next morning his wife woke up first at daybreak and looked out of the bed at the beautiful country stretched before her. Her husband was sleeping, so she dug her elbows into his side and said, "Get up, husband, and look out of the window. Could we not become king of all this land? Go down to the flounder and tell him we choose to be king." "Ah, wife," replied her husband, "why should we be king? I certainly don't want to be king." "Well," said his wife, "if you don't want to be king, I will be king. Go down to the flounder. I will be king." So the fisherman went. "It is not right, it is not right," he thought. He did not wish to go, yet he went. When he came to the sea, the water was a dark grey colour, and it was heaving against the shore. So he stood and said, "Once a prince, but changed you be into a flounder in the sea. Come for my wife Isabel, wishes what I dare not tell." "What does she want now?" asked the flounder. "Alas," said the fisherman, "she wants to be king." "Go home, she is that already," said the flounder. The fisherman went home, and when he came near the palace, he saw that it had become much larger. And when he went into the palace, he found everything was of pure marble and gold, and the curtains were made of damask and tassels of gold. And the doors of the hall flew open, and there stood the whole court around his wife, who was sitting on a high throne of gold and diamonds. So he said, "Let that be enough, wife, now that you are king, for we have nothing more to wish for." "Nay, husband," said his wife restlessly, "my wishing powers are boundless. Go down to the flounder. King I am, now I must be emperor." "Ah, wife," he said, "he cannot make you emperor. I don't like to ask him that. There is only one emperor in this kingdom." "If he can make me king," said his wife, "he can make emperor, and emperor I must and will be. Go." So he had to go, but as he went he felt quite frightened, and he thought to himself, "This can't be right. To be emperor is too ambitious. The flounder will be tired out at last." The sea was quite black and thick, and it was breaking high on the beach. The fisherman was chilled with fear. He stood and said, "Once a prince, but changed you be into a flounder in the sea. Come for my wife Isabel, wishes what I dare not tell." "What does she want now?" asked the flounder. "Alas, flounder," he said, "my wife wants to be emperor." "Go home," said the flounder, "she is that already." So the fisherman went home, and when he came there he saw the whole castle was made of polished marble. Before the gate soldiers were marching, blowing trumpets and beating drums, and when he entered he saw his wife upon a throne which was made out of a single block of gold. She had on a very tall golden crown which was set with brilliants and sparkling gems. The fisherman went up to her quickly and said, "Wife, are you emperor now?" "Yes," she said, "I am emperor." He stood looking at her magnificence, and when he had watched her for some time said, "Ah, wife, let that be enough now you are emperor." "Ah, husband," she said, "why are you standing there? I am emperor now, and want to be pope too. so go down to the flounder. Alas, wife, you cannot be pope. There is only one pope in Christendom, and the flounder cannot make you that. Husband, she said, I will be pope. Go down quickly, I must be pope today. So he was quite frightened and went out, but when he felt quite faint and trembled and shook, and his knees and legs began to give way under him, the wind was flowing fiercely across the land, and the clouds flying across the night looked as gloomy. The water was foaming and seething and dashing on the shore. Still the sky was very blue in the middle, although it was angry red, as in a great storm. So he stood shuddering in anxiety, and said, Once a prince, but changed you be into a flounder in the sea. Come, for my wife Isabel wishes what I dare not tell. Well, what does she want now? Asked the flounder. Alas, she wants to be pope. Go home then, she is that already, said the flounder. Then he went home, and when he came there, he saw a large church surrounded by palaces. He pushed his way through the people. The interior was lit up with thousands and thousands of candles. His wife was sitting on a much higher throne, and she wore 3 great golden crowns. All the emperors and kings were on their knees before her, and were kissing her foot. Wife, said the fisherman, looking at her, are you pope now? Yes, she said, I am pope. So he stood staring at her, and it was as if he was looking at the bright sun. He said, wife, let it be enough now that you are pope. But she sat as straight as a tree, and did not move or bend the least bit. The woman was not content. That night her greed would not allow her to sleep, and she kept on thinking and thinking what she could still become. The fisherman slept well and soundly, for he had done a great deal that day, but his wife did not sleep at all, and turned from one side to the other the whole night long, and thought, till she could think no longer. What could she become? Then the sun began to rise, and she thought, could I not make the sun and moon rise? Husband, she said, poking him in the ribs with her elbow, wake up, go down to the flounder. I will be a god. The fisherman was still half asleep, yet he was so frightened that he fell out of bed, and he thought he had not heard right, and opened his eyes wide and said, What did you say, wife? Go down at once, I will be a god. Alas, wife, pleaded the fisherman, falling down on his knees before her, the flounder cannot make you do that, emperor, and pope he can make you. I implore you, be content and remain pope. She then flew into a rage. Her hair hung wildly around her face, and she pushed him with her foot and screamed, I am not content, and I shall not be contented. Will you go? So he hurried on his clothes as fast as possible, and ran away as if he were mad. But the storm was raging so fiercely that he could scarcely stand. The sky was as black as ink, it was thundering and lightning, and the sea was tossing in great waves as high as church towers and mountains, and each had a white crest of foam. So he shouted, not able to hear his own voice, Once a prince, but changed you be into a flounder in the sea. Come, for my wife Isabel wishes what I dare not tell. Well, what does she want now? Asked the flounder. Alas, he said, she wants to be a god. Go home then. She's sitting again in the hut, and there they are sitting to this day.